Hello, people who spend your precious time watching and listening to this podcast. I'm Gabriele Chiapparini. Welcome to Small Photobook Cult. When, where, how? These are the first questions I ask myself when looking at this project. Today's book, WACO, is a compelling and ambiguous visual journey through the America. The photographer used enigmatic, uncaptioned monochrome photographs to create a fragmented and cinematic narrative. It invites viewers to explore social discontent, suburban life, and the psychological undertone of the American landscape, allowing the imagination to construct its own story. The book's poetic and mysterious nature, influenced by film noir and David Lynch, resists a single narrative, instead offering a series of disconnected yet cohesive images that reflect a quiet, foreboding sense of place. And the sky is heavy above our heads. Welcome to this new episode of Small Photobook Cult. We are here with Jack Garland. Hello, Jack. I'm really glad to speak with you today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
It's a pleasure. Are you in Berlin, right?
Yeah, I'm in Berlin for the next couple days. I just had an exhibition in a small studio here. I've been here just like doing that, and today's the Berlin Marathon, so we're enjoying that as well. But yeah, just at the studio space now, where the exhibition for WACO is.
It's great. Like, we are going to speak about the book of the exhibition, so maybe we can put the episode on air in live
exactly.
in the gallery.
Yeah, it can be projected onto the wall, you know?
Yeah, can be nice.
Very good.
So do you want to start introducing the project, and at the same time I start to flip through the book so we can have a complete view of this beautiful work?
Yes, for sure. So the book is my first. It's called WACO. It is a book about, you'd think, the small town in Texas that has sort of a big history. In 1993, this cult and the FBI and ATF had a standoff for, I think, something like 40 days. And it was a media frenzy, like a political spectacle, a circus, if you will. And this, in Americans' minds at least, it was an extremely like polarizing time, but also an environment that that lives in Americans' minds. You know, when you say the word WACO, you think about government overreach, cult of personalities, religious extremists, just these very kind of American themes, media spectacle, conspiracy theories, things like this. And so I wanted to use the name as a vehicle to get people to think about like the context of these images in photography. And sort of the catch with the book is I've never been to WACO. These photos are not from there. There's no text in the book saying whether it is or it isn't. It's just the only text is like the name WACO. So it's a very kind of open-ended way of getting you to think about like the power of like a place, and then like this kind of fictitious but semi-accurate representation of like this very sort of like polarizing and like, just like an American event, if you will. Like the goal was to let people look through this and kind of slowly discover that they're not just going through a town, they're not studying like a single place, but they're looking through, I don't know, like what the power of an idea, and this, for me, the book came about because of this. I shoot a lot, and I shoot all over the country and all over the world when I travel and things. And I had a lot of images that I was really stuck on, like what to do with. And I kept thinking so literally about the project. I think someone suggested to me that that there is like power in making like a movie of some kind or a fiction. And when I started to think about, I don't have to be just a documentary photographer. I can create whatever reality I want within a project. And whatever I suggest it is, that's what most people will interpret it as. So once I sort of discovered that, it was like this kind of groundbreaking moment where my archive of images had this new sort of light to them and this new sort of potential, using them through, suggestion. Like these photos are from all over the country and the world, and they're meant to be a vehicle to think about what like a photograph can do and suggest and say. If you tell people it's about a specific place that has some charge or some controversy or some site of violence or something like this, and it reads differently to everyone as well. And that's sort of what I wanted, was every time you look at it in a different time in your life, it's telling you something different. So yeah, that was like the main objective with the book, was getting people to, especially me, it was a practice of seeing outside the document, like the documentary aspect of making images, and looking at what images can do. And you strip away the context and then you suggest something.
There is also a pretty heavy atmosphere in the pictures. Like also, for example, watching this one, it's a rainbow, right? The fact that it's in black and white and everything, it's really, I don't know how to say. It's a picture that pushed me down a bit, you know. Not in a bad way. Like, I don't like these pictures. Like, as a feeling, like it's
totally. When I sequenced this with my publisher, Nearest Truth, Brad Fjorhelm, he helped me a lot with sort of creating this sort of atmosphere, because I take a lot of pretty pictures too, and I think, with this photo is originally in color, and I think it's quite beautiful. But I think he's really good at suggesting, or like, finding these sort of motifs of heaviness and like beauty, and like, this is the antithesis of a rainbow. It's completely the color stripped out, but it's still there. And so there's a lot of kind of things like that in the book. I think with the lack of color provides like a very, I don't know, like on some of these photos, it was like the most beautiful days when I shot them. Just like, yeah, I think that's why I like black and white. It just simplifies, or puts a weight on everything in like a very nice kind of way that still leaves it open-ended, but has a very distinct feeling to it.
Are all the pictures in color originally or not?
Probably like 80-90% of them are. Yeah, I mean, I shoot mostly digital, but there's some film photos in the book that were shot on like black and white film. I mean, all of this work is archival at this point. Like, I never went out and shot for this project once I had it in mind. This is, to me, another way how I started to work when I was doing this book, was being like, wow, like, I just like to shoot photos. I just like to go out and take photos. For the longest time, I thought, oh, well, I'm in Berlin, for example. So the project I'm doing has to be about Berlin. It has to be about Europe or something regionally, location-wise. And I ended up just realizing, like, you can, you give the photos enough time, and you can put them anywhere. You can put them together if they work, and that was super liberating for me. But yeah, that's kind of that's how I've been shooting. That's how I do shoot now, is take photos and then revisit them when I have an idea and see if they work. But I'm not a like, go out and get photos specifically for a purpose necessarily.
Did the project evolve with you photographed, like with you taking photographs, during the process of making it? Like, there was this balance between you go out and taking pictures, not for this project, but maybe adding new pictures. Did the project evolve with that?
Yeah, I think there's a couple photos that came about after I had initially figured out what the book was going to be about, that, I found myself in like a small town in Wyoming, and I think there's like 3 or 4. There's a picture of a man with his hand out in this book. Not this one, but there's another one. He's like silhouetted. This was just a short little road trip I did with my friend Ben. And we met this guy who was like showing us his storefront, was talking about it. He liked our cameras, so he showed us inside. And this was one that when I shot it, I said, oh, this would be, there was a couple from this day, I think, that made it into the book itself. But it was never like, let's go here to shoot to add to the book. It's just, I always have a camera on me, and I always try to shoot with the mindset of, if it catches me like in the moment, I take a photo of it, and in 10 years, maybe it can be in a project. Maybe in a week it'll be in a project. But some of the oldest photos in this book are probably 10, 12, 15 years old. And I never really had plans for them. But once the concept kind of came about, I sort of knew what I was looking for, landscape and geographically speaking. Like, I was it was much easier to kind of put everything together and like assemble like a sequence. I think I started originally with like 500 images, and over like 4 months, we broke it down to these like 50, 56, 57 images, something like that.
And how much far during the process you start to have this concrete idea of the core of the project?
Yeah, originally this all came out of like a frustration with, I was doing this Photobook workshop, and I came, this idea came about in like sort of a tongue-in-cheek way, because I thought, I'm not, I have photos from all over, and I don't really know how they all fit together. And I wasn't thinking like about doing like a lyrical book or anything. I figured like, oh, well, these are from Colorado, these are from New Mexico, these are from Chicago. Like they all kind of have to stay separate because they're not the same thing. And that really like kind of was like weighing on me during the book, like the process. And so tongue in cheek, I kind of said, well, what if I just like told everyone it's about a place? Like, I looked up, I think the most named town in America, like the most common named town in America. And it's like Franklin or something, like Franklin, USA was originally, I think, going to be the title. But the whole book was going to be about me selling it to you like this real place. There was going to be a little Wikipedia summary of this town that I would write, the demographics, like what the town's known for, who's famous that came from there. Like, and then I would just show you all these photos from all over, but not tell you. But it came about to use the name WACO through some discussions with Brad and other people to find a place with some real mental sort of weight that like people remember if you're of a certain age or a certain time. Or a lot of Europeans know of this place because of like movies or things like that. And the 30th anniversary of like the Waco siege, as they call it, was like maybe 2 years ago at this point. So there was a lot of buzz for it when we were making it. It was a resurgence of like this event. So we thought, oh, we'll use this name because it's sort of in the zeitgeist of like pop culture of like being an American. Like a lot of people have heard of this. So yeah, we really enjoyed like finding a physical real place to use instead of just like a totally make-believe one. But that's how it started, was like the idea of selling you this fake place and kind of taking you through it in this fictitious, almost like movie, like atmosphere kind of way.
And do you decide to use not the capital W for the title for a specific reason?
Yeah, we wanted to sort of use that as maybe the only reference that it's not the physical place. Mm-hmm. So a capital W would suggest that it's normally important places have like capitalized like first letter. And if we took that out and we made it lowercase, then it's sort of our one hint that we can do just within that text, within that small little 4-letter text, to maybe send you on your way to like start thinking about like, is this a single place? Is he photographing this place literally, documentarily, like, or is he doing something else here through like an archive, or like what's he trying to do?
Yeah, I like this aspect that you start to have some questions just from the title.
Right. That was I think Simon Bray, the designer for this book. He's also a photographer, but he's great. I think he came up with that, or we were all kind of talking one day and just being like, how do we make this, aside from sequencing and kind of geographic hints, which might, people might not all get, how do you kind of drop those hints? And I think that was like a really clever way to do it. I couldn't take credit for it, but I think it's brilliant. Yeah.
Yeah. And there is a lot of tension and like a feeling like an event incoming watching this picture. You have a lot of pictures like this one that is probably my favorite. I love this one so much.
Yeah.
And it's like you being outside somewhere smoking a cigarette and just hear something in the middle of the woods and just try to watch what there is there. It's a really powerful image, I think. What were you looking for, and how do you achieve this to have this element of tension and to have this feeling of something incoming that you still cannot see properly.
Yeah, I mean, that's again like so much of like the flow of this book and like the kind of tension around a lot of the images is in collaboration with the editor and publisher Brad Fjordhelm. I mean, he sees this is like his favorite kind of photo as well, but it's like he really has an eye for like these sort of tensions and like these dark scenes. And me, it's I think I shoot this kind of stuff more than I feel it. Like maybe it's deep down in there for me. I think there's definitely some dread and some tension and things like this. But often I'm not looking for it when I photograph, but I end up finding it in the work after the fact. So for me, I think a lot of the selections of images, like I want to say, we had to throw away a lot of stuff that was like very pretty and very painterly or pictorial. And he made some, I think, really smart decisions to, with the subject matter of what WACO is. He wanted to ride that edge, and I agreed with him, and of course, but I think he did a really good job with me and sort of guiding me. This is my first book, so I was very much like putting my trust in someone who has looked at a lot more books than me, but also just has seen a lot more stuff that he was alive during the time of WACO. He was a little bit older than me, so he remembers it more. So those feelings, I think, are more present with him. But yeah, I think just this sort of unease, this tension of like beauty and violence, maybe is the word. I don't know. I want to say like every photo in this to me feels slightly charged in that kind of way. And maybe that's the thing I'm kind of like, when I brought all these images to the program, that's maybe the one thing they all had in common was like, this was also 2022, 23. This was like right during COVID, and there was all this, uneasiness, unsureness. And I'd recently give up taking color photos and had converted my entire library to black and white. And so I think I was just in like a bad headspace maybe, which kind of led me to focus more on this kind of like photography in this sort of like atmosphere.
And how much painful was the throw away a lot of pictures from this project?
It was, I think, there's definitely like a whole couple other books worth of stuff that I have. Just which those are coming eventually, I think. But I think it wasn't as hard as I thought, and I think it was just because I put all of my faith in someone with more experience, which is maybe not always the best thing to do. But in my case, I really get along with Brad and I really trust him. And when he says, hey, like, this is an amazing photo, but like, it doesn't serve the overall project, like, I'm like, it could be the best photo I've ever taken or the one I'm like most emotionally connected with. And I can be like, yeah, let's remove it. I think there was a couple arguments about photos in the book that needed to stay or go. And I only vetoed maybe like one or two of them. And the gun one, the gun photo, that was the one that most people either said it needs to be in the book or it needs to go. That was pretty divisive. Obviously, I think it's like the most literal image. It's literally a gun being fired and like the shell shooting out. And a lot of people said take it out. And Brad and I both agreed, though, like that was like, it's a book about America. There has to be some literal violence, and there's some, we've been talking about this concept like very subtly. I kind of wanted to be heavy-handed for a second, with one image. There was other more violent photos that were pulled just because they were too obvious, we said one's enough, and obviously the next photo that we could never put a person or something in this next photo. This had to be like, you're shooting the gun into something innocuous, like debris or whatever. But that was like a sequential kind of like decision as well. So,
and in the book, you have some quite specific portraits, because you have portraits like this one, and some other like, you have also stuff like this that is, there is a lot of movement, and it seems more something that you catch in the streets.
Yes.
And then you have a more cinematic one like this one or the other one. that are really, really quite close to Mulholland Drive, Twin Peaks.
Sure. Yeah.
Imaginary.
I mean, yeah, we were definitely, I think that was like one of the places we originally like joked about making the book about Mulholland Drive or like some sort of Lynchian sort of themes or atmosphere. I think it definitely has some of that. And I don't know, I had a photo studio for a while in Chicago. And so I took a lot of portraits of people, and a lot of the kind of quote unquote like bad photos we used for this book. So like this photo, for example, this was like, you know, the light, she had kind of moved out of the light or something, and it wasn't right. But for this book, I think it kind of suited the project. There's just like an uneasiness about it, but she's got this great kind of face and this gesture with the hands that is like super dark. But it's slightly off, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I do a little bit of everything photographically. So the archive is like so big at this point. Like I have street photos, I have studio work like this, I have, just like crazy amounts of variety. And so finding out kind of how these all worked, you know, like that was super hard. And like which ones to keep. There was obviously better photos that we chose to get rid of, but ultimately like the ones we have paired together and things, like I think they serve the book overall much better. And that's something I had to learn just through, you know, learning how to sequence, learning how to put images together, how one strengthens the other, you know, what comes after you turn the page influences what came before. This kind of like relationship that was super new to me. This again was just like a total exercise in rhythm and just the flow of a book, you know, which I still, you know, I don't know if I fully understand. It's just a feeling. It's, you know, and everyone sort of gets a different interpretation of it, which is exactly kind of what I want with my photos. Like, I really don't want there to be a clear message. Like, you know, I think the idea is to let people have their own time with these images, sort of like these silent movies or something, you know, like you're kind of projecting onto each one. It's just like something like a vessel for you to interpret through a memory of your own.
Speaking about still a little bit about this kind of portraits, it really take me in a place that is really specific, that it's about, as I said before, you know, a bit like movies or that kind of Hollywood production. And it refers a bit to me about how much in our society the production company can push more or less also a kind of vision of violence.
Yeah, I mean, this whole book is like, in my mind, very much so like a film. You know, this is how I kind of I wanted to be like a director of photography when I grew up. Like that was always something I was like, I loved framing image like shots and watching movies, and dreamed about going to Hollywood and making films and things. I couldn't hack it, but I thought the photography was kind of like the next best thing in terms of like it's a solo act most of the time, and it's you're setting the scene, you're creating a mood and atmosphere, and you know this whole book is kind of like like it's a film set in a way, right? Kind of like what you're saying, like the violence in the movies. It's like you're sort of establishing a something, you know, it's a fiction, you know, but to the viewer, you know, if it's a good movie, you're sort of lost in it for a while. You're sort of immersed in something that's, you know, outside of that frame. There's people standing with, you know, lights and stands and taking notes and things, but you know, whatever's in that frame is like, you know, it's a portal to like another sort of like violent dimension, you know. And this, I think, is I took definitely some like inspiration with movies, like while making this, you know.
Yeah, but they are pretty close a lot of time, especially if we speak about photobooks. You have almost everything a part of the movement that in some way you can still feel it, the sounds, of course. But something that I really love about photobooks is that you put down a kind of rhythm. But in the end, it's not completely under your control, because it depends how the viewer goes through the book. You can stop a lot on a single picture and less to another one.
Right.
And I love this fact that give some part of the control of the viewer.
Yeah. I mean, that's I think up until, I don't know, 6-7 years ago, I didn't know I knew about like coffee table books, but I didn't know about like what a photo book was. But through doing some workshops and things like that, I'm trained just by myself. Like I didn't go to school for this. So, what I did learn was online and through just like chatting with other people. So my I'd say still like my wisdom or knowledge in the history of photography and the books and things that have come out before this. It's fair now, but it's certainly there's not a lot of context for the images. So for me, the book is it's school in and of itself to make these projects. It's teaching me something every time I look at a photo book or this sort of thing. But I agree, it's like a movie, but the pacing and everything else about it is like very much a personal experience. I mean, this book, we thought we had a pretty standardized viewing of it when we shared it with people. And then since it's been out there, I've heard a lot of different interpretations and theories and things, and all of it. I think you have to like be okay with it because it's not mine anymore. Essentially, it's its own thing, and it's how everyone else wants to interpret it. Which some people have said it's like a movie. Some people say it's like a political statement. Some people have said other things as well, but it's all of it is valid to me. It's a project about whatever you want it to be in a sense, which I think oftentimes projects that are so kind of wordy and so over explained or academic in a sense, they just lose me. The mystery is gone in the image, when it's so direct and so kind of like, here's the location of this image, here's who shot it, here's why it's important, here's who's in the frame, here's it's in the photo. I think it doesn't die, but it sort of does. It's I want to discover all that myself or interpret it all however I choose to. And I think that's what separates photography maybe from movies is, most movies there's dialogue and there's music that's sort of influencing how you feel, how you interpret a scene. The book, it's just you and the images, and that's to me it's like a super special medium that I'm still figuring out.
And did you speak a bit about adding text or not, or it was a clear decision from the start?
I mean, there was so much doubt for a while with, do we, like at the end of the book, do we just like have a little blurb that says none of these photos were taken in WACO and leave it at that? Or do we get someone to write kind of like some prose about something, or I asked a couple people if they would like to. All of them were interested in the start, but I think they all sort of kind of after a while, I think they all kind of were like, I don't think it needs it. Like, I don't know what I'm offering here. And I think came to agree with that just in my own like self-assuredness with the project. I think there was I was willing to do whatever for this, but I was also very much like, I don't know if this is going to be lost on everyone. I don't know if this is going to make sense to people or if I'm going to have to just like completely over explain it. But I think I just kind of said like, it would be, I think the way it is like this, it's so simple of a concept in terms of initially, like it's a name that has some recognition and then you go into the pictures, and that to me, I think is like a very cool way of doing a project. But it was nerve-wracking for a while to think like, oh, that's all we're going to do. I had thinking people are going to be like, well, where's the text? Like, what's this about? What is WACO? For the most part, I think people have kind of figured it out. And when I explain it or talk about it, you get this sort of like pause and then like they look closer at the images like, okay, well then why is this chosen? Or why was this like why are these two together? Or like, okay, now they're reading it differently. And so I think through like minimal explanation or interfacing with the viewer, I think the conclusion can maybe be drawn, especially with the physical book. It really helps. Obviously, if you're seeing prints on a wall or something, it's a little less linear, but still, that's why you have a a brochure or something in like a gallery.
Are there some specific books that you used to watch during this process of making this one?
Yeah. So around this time, I still am, but around this time I was looking a lot at John Gossage, Raymond Meeks, and like Louis Baltz. I'm from Colorado, so Robert Adams is like one of my all-time favorite photographers as well. And like a lot of this work was made during my I lived in Colorado. I'm from Colorado. I getting into photography. He was a name that was always around. And so his Saturday night, or what is it, Summer Nights Walking, that was a huge book for me for taking photos, and it's places I recognize, and definitely kind of set an atmosphere for me. Like one of maybe beauty, but unease. Another is like The Pond, Gossage. That one to me is like so simple and like affirming, like so many of those photos are just shots of, quote unquote, like trees, grass, like paths, all these things. And around the time I was making this, that's like all I was photographing. There's wonky angles, things like that. And like this one here, it's funny. But yeah, there's so many of those kind of photos that was like, oh, like I feel like he's been doing this. Like that book came out, so I think in the 80s or something. And to see that work even then, and to see some of like my own kind of tendencies, and that was like super profound and like affirming to keep shooting like that, to keep looking for those sort of innocuous kind of like mundane photos. And I think obviously I'm searching for a little more tension in them, but he's like a master at like doing that with just like the most sort of like on paper mundane subject matter. So yeah, The Pond, Raymond Meeks was another huge one. He helped quite a bit with this project in a workshop. I showed it to him, and his book, Half Story, Half Life, which is about these kids diving into like a waterfall. There's like this kind of energy and like, uneasiness to it. And, but also beauty that I think was really inspiring to me, and just sort of technically how he makes images and how he takes images and how he sequences and things like that. I'm super inspired by as well. So yeah, just a bunch of, black and white photographer guys. Like those were kind of my people I felt seen by, people I felt I wasn't crazy for finding these kind of images interesting.
Yeah, two works that to me are close in some way to this work. It's like, of course, Jack Latham, Parliament of All, but also America Origami. That is another book that I love so much. It seems that not a lot of people knows that book, and I think it's so good.
Yeah, I'm looking at the American Origami book right now. It's amazing.
It's amazing.
Yeah,
it's an amazing book.
Yeah, this is cool. Yeah,
it's in color. Yeah. And it's
right,
it's
which
really
is
a different feeling,
right? But it's these kind of sites of tragedy. Yeah, I like this. This is, I think I was being a little more lyrical, but definitely like this is sort of the same feeling. Exploring something. This is just definitely like more research based, but I love the presentation. I love the feeling.
Yeah,
absolutely.
If you have the chance to try to see the book physically.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Jack, it seems in the book there are some, like in the hidden clues.
Yes.
I don't know, it's a feeling. And it feels that I have this feeling that during all this book you can have a lot of this that you are not able to understand or decrypt.
Mm-hmm.
Is something that you was thinking doing this book or not? Like it's just something that happened and that maybe I feel and also other people can also.
Sure. Yeah, I think, I know sort of where I was for making all of these images. And I think the power is that you don't have that context. So I think naturally there's these kind of hints and clues and things that kind of seep out of the pages, kind of seep out of, pictures in the sequence that makes it to the viewer feels like there's some sort of conspiracy for some sort of hint. I think that's extremely, it has to be there. And I mean, maybe that's just how I also like to look at books and make, so therefore it's in this one as well. But yeah, I'm always looking, photo books and pictures and trying to see if there's any little Easter eggs or hints or things that the author or whoever is leaving behind. I think that's part of this book too. Is it's not playful, but it is in a way. Like I wanted it to be this sort of tongue-in-cheek thing. I think it looks very kind of stark and like austere and like heavy, but I think there's also like this sort of, I hope like there's like this sort of playful game of like searching and discovering and figuring out like whatever it is you want to figure it out. Like the end of the day, like the events of this time in Waco, it was like a media circus. There was this like whole, it's like pre-fake news sort of ideas and things, conspiracy theories and things. So I think the book, naturally, I wanted to have some of that energy of like conspiracy or like suggestion that is now even more prevalent. We live in like post-truth kind of era, and that's sort of also what the book is about. It's post-truth. It's a place about a place, but it's not. I think that's what I find so interesting about the concept.
And of course, we don't have the music because it's a photo book, but how much does
Right.
music influence your work?
Oh, it's everything. I mean, I probably was listening to something when I was taking most of these and working, with it. It's like always there. I'm always listening to music when I'm walking or taking photographs. Very often am I not, and if I am, it's because I'm with someone else and we're talking. But music was sort of my first, because I think because of movies were so special to me. Movies were always like sort of the energy behind when I would edit, when I would shoot. They would kind of direct me. I could change the situation or how I observed a situation just based on what was playing in my ears. So music is like hugely important to how I work and how I sequence and how I edit. And yeah, it sets the mood for the day when I leave, and it affects how and what I photograph. So super important.
And in the sequencing, you decide to use a lot of double white pages during the book.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
Well,
I think this was like a very contentious thing, but I think it might work, it might not. I think we had two versions of this book, so I don't have a PDF of the special or artist edition, but the blank pages were initially spaced. There was these hard transition points in the book where we didn't really know how to. We were struggling with like how to start a new sequence or something. Um, and so we jokingly said, like, let's just put a blank page in it. Like I said, think of it like you fade to black for a second before the next scene starts. You're kind of resetting. And in another way, it also was where for the artist edition, I ordered like 200 something newspapers from the Waco Tribune in Texas. I called them and said, hey, can I, on the 30th anniversary of the end of the siege with the Branch Davidians, I ordered 200 newspapers from that day from the Waco Tribune, and they mounted them into the special edition in these sections where there's two blank spreads. So it sort of works on two levels, I guess, but I have had some people be like, I think mine's like printed wrong or something. I just got the standard edition and there's no pictures on these pages. And I have to sort of smile and say it's sort of intentional. It is like it's a pause between like the next thing. And I think I saw some other books do it. I can't remember what, but we played around. I played around with it with a maquette or two, and I liked sort of just flipping to nothing and letting the viewer kind of be surprised by that and maybe question it and like be a little confused or suspicious, or like to add to like the kind of clue, leaving a hint kind of thing. It's just another question to ask, and then the newspaper, the artist edition, it's just the newspaper mounted like hand glued in to the special editions. So you get to kind of like read through this newspaper on this day. It's the 30th anniversary of it, and they're not addressing this, the history at all. It's, I think the front page is about a highway rebuild project or something, but it's there. And it was is just another kind of like little sprinkling of clues to kind of be like, wait, why is there newspapers in this book about this place if it's not about this place? So the whole thing is sort of just wrapped up in this weird sort of like conspiracy theory, investigation. Yeah, very, very much a thing of our time of just like exploring what it means to document something or be a part of a place or say something about a place.
I like a lot the fact that it seems to refer like a lack of informations, and it happens a lot with conspiracy theory or this kind of stuff that is just you have a part of the story but not all, so you can just make up some conclusion without knowing everything, and in this space you have this feeling of losing something that can be important and I don't know, more descriptive. Do you have pictures that for you it's really like the core of the project, one or more than one?
Yeah. I think that last photo, the man standing on the roof, looking out over the radio tower. I think that sort of was like the first photo I knew was going to be in it. One, because I think when I got the name WACO, this sort of, if this reminds me of West Texas. This is Wyoming. This isn't West Texas, but this sort of environment screamed like this could be from this area. And then there's this kind of faceless man, like this mystery, like his pose is sort of uncertain. It's not hostile, but he's not just standing there. He's clearly moving towards something or backing away from something. Or this to me, like this photo did so much of like the kind of aesthetic, like this is the core that I kind of built everything else around with Brad on. This was like such an interesting sort of mistake photo too. Like so many of my photos are just, I think he was walking in front of the frame at the time when I was trying to take this very nice, pretty shot. And I think I rejected it for a couple of years before I went back and realized like, wow, this is like profoundly interesting and doing a lot. This photo for sure was like super influential in like the rest of the book, especially when I showed it to other people. They said, oh man, this has to be in the book. This has to be it. And I think it's as like the last book image in the book. I think it's, it's sort of this, is he marching away or backing up into like uncertainty or like this pillar of like, some idea, is he scared of it or is he going towards it or something? Like I think it's a great way to end the project in terms of just an ambiguous last kind of gasp.
Yeah, and also I like a lot the layering of these pictures because this one is the roof, right?
Yeah.
But if you don't pay attention, it seems to be the land.
Yes.
And it's so weird because there is this really straight inclination, like of that it's a bit unnatural. And also, this one seems some woods all together, like trees. But it's really weird with the distance from the tower and the other stuff that you can see in the images. So until you don't notice this part, and so you start to understand that, this is just the roof. It's not. I think it's really an image where you can get lost and, you start to ask yourself what I'm looking at.
Yeah, I think it just kind of reveals, I think it's sort of, I still look at it and see something different every time, It's one of those happy accidents that just, I think has like a lot to give. And it's kind of what I love in photography is like, it's ambiguous enough to where it really, every single person's going to look at it differently and interpret it differently. And I think that's like, to me, that's everything in photography is every, individual's takeaway from every single image. It's special. And I think this photo is definitely just like in terms for me, like one of the better ones I've taken that kind of sums that theory up.
Yeah, completely agree. And also, the first thing I noticed in this picture is it was this white road.
Yes.
And I thought, if this is a white road and this is, group of trees, how much tall is this tower? Like it's
exactly
like 3 kilometers of towers, maybe more. Yeah. 10 probably is the most high building in the world. And
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I didn't even think about that, but that's very true. It does look like he's sort of overlooking this this roof as like this looks like a landscape. And again, this is where it's like I know where I was. I was like probably I want to say 20 meters up on this, like it was an old concrete factory in Wyoming. Um, it's still there, but you can just go inside and climb up to the top. And so for me, it's like I know exactly where I was, and I've never thought of it that way. But now you saying this, it's like I'm totally seeing like the forest and like the pathways and like the
Yeah,
it's crazy.
No, but it's beautiful because it's put you in a position where you, not understanding the proportion of the tower, this thing that can be,
So tall.
Yeah, can be so tall, and also at the same moment is the central point of the picture, like it's where
Right.
where our subject is looking at, and you are looking at. And as you said before, you don't know if he's scared about that, and you don't know if he's walking in that direction, or if this tower is
Right.
a kind of enemy or something. And the fact that you cannot understand the real proportion, it really makes me feel that the idea normally can be really ambiguous. Like for someone, something that is really a super normal thing, like a radio tower, it's just a radio tower. For someone else, it's really something else, something more huge, something
Yeah.
more.
Yeah. There's definitely, I think, because it is like a broadcast tower, like a radio tower, there's like sort of this like animosity or like uneasiness with these things, right? Like they're broadcasting signals and information and fiction and truth and all these things. And I think the whole book's about kind of exploring what's real and what's not, and what suggestion. And that tower is sort of like in a way like the vessel that kind of disseminates these things, and yeah. But that's also something like, I put it in the book, but if you would have asked me a year ago why it's in there, I wouldn't have said this. And but again, that's like what I love about making photos. It's I'm learning new things about the images I'm making, or I'm mining these things again and again and discovering new observations within them, even now.
Is there a specific music that you suggest to listen watching this book?
Yeah, I have two albums that I think I was listening to them a lot, and also just kind of reflect maybe the both the beauty and the unease. Um, the first record, it's called "Remove Your Skin, Please," and it's by a band called Chat Pile. They're from, I think, Oklahoma City, but they're like a very kind of they're a heavier band, I guess, but definitely have that very kind of Midwest, very American sort of hopeless, like kind of angst to them. Very, very good record. I listened to this a lot when I was photographing, but also, looking at the work while I was going about my day, while I was thinking about the project. This was sort of the despair, the heavy, the weight element to the book. And then the other record I played that's sort of almost the antithesis of that was this record called Long Cool World by a band called North Americans. And that's mostly just like, what do they call it? American primitive guitar picking, playing with some like slide and lap steel. It's a very beautiful record. And I think there's images from the book that I think both of those things both of those records can really tap into, and they both feel like very powerful with. So yeah, it's the kind of music I think I was listening to a lot during this time.
Do you learn something during the process of making this project and this book that can help other photographers to do a better job?
Yeah. Yeah, I'd say be okay with compromise, be okay with things not going your way, because especially if you're working with someone else, like put trust in others. Don't waste so much energy thinking so hard about if people are going to get it or not. Make sure you feel good about the work you're making and like what kind of control you have over it. But ultimately, I think just put trust in people that you whose work you like, or who have just been doing this for a while. Like I think you don't have to do everything on your own, and that to me is like something I'm still learning to do, is ask for help, ask for opportunity, ask for advice, and realize like the photo world is so small, and most people are very inaccessible, or very accessible, not inaccessible. Most people have a lot of time on their hand. Instagram has been a great tool for me to just reach out to people to get their opinion on my work, or try to meet them for a coffee if they're coming through town or whatever, and I'd say that's like my advice is just like, don't think too hard and reach out to the people that you respect and talk to them.
And the very, very last question, can you suggest us books to invite here in the podcast? Books and photographers, of course.
Yeah. Well, I'd say right now, I think there's an artist in Berlin that I'm hanging out with. Her name is Xiaofu Wang. I think it's Xaifuo Wang, Xiaofu Wang. She has a book out through Nearest Truth that is amazing, called The Tower. This book is all about this tower in, I believe, Belgrade. She passed it one day on the highway and then saw it and said, "Oh, like what's going on inside there? What's going on with the residents and things like that?" And so she, I think over a year or two, went inside, ended up getting access to a lot of the people and the places within it. And yeah, it's a beautiful, beautiful book. And that's like definitely someone I think would, I don't know, that book deserves all the love in the world. It's also just like, Xiaofu is also just like an extremely talented photographer. Yeah, I think that would be a really cool one to have on the program.
Great. Thank you so much, Jack. We reached the end of this episode.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it was really interesting. So let's wait for the next one.
Yes.
Next book.
It's coming. Don't worry, it's coming. Yeah.
Really? Like quite soon or not?
Oh, I mean, probably next year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, probably sometime next year. I've got so much work that's like ready to go.
Amazing. So let's wait for there, and then let's do another one.
We'll do this again.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome.
Okay, thanks so much to you, Jack, and to everybody that listened this episode until the end. See you soon. Ciao. Ciao, Jack.
Yes. Ciao, ciao.